Tell them who we are, Bob.
All right, yeah, we want to welcome you to the Tuesday night edition of the Wild Bob and Ronnie Show.
Maybe the only edition.
Right, we're coming to you from LaFollette, Tennessee, in the U.S. of A. And we're pleased to be here. I am, because this will be the 79th New Year's that I have witnessed.
Well, my 60... What is this? 64th or 65th New Year's.
Right, how old are you?
I have trouble with it. What year is it? It's 13. Okay. I'm 64.
You're 64.
So it's my 65th New Year.
Yeah, that's right. That's me. I'm 78. And
I have trouble between December the 10th and January the 1st.
Right.
I'll be 64 when it's 2004.
Right.
And I've been 63 while it was 2013, 14.
Right.
But I have trouble in that gray area there.
Well,
and you're what, 39 again?
There you go. You know, well, you think, I might mention, we're glad that all of you are here.
Especially us.
We appreciate my two brothers, my sister tuning in. But we just tickled to death for all of you to be here. And we got a real, one of our special guests that comes on once in a while. R.L. Henson, and we're tickled to death to have you here tonight.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the invitation, fellas. I said walking down the road there hitchhiking, you just don't never know what. You be hitchhiking,
you don't never know what's going to come on down the back
here. In.
But you know, at my age, nothing surprises me anymore, because I have seen so many changes in this 79 years that I have witnessed. I remember I had the honor, also it was a little bit of a mixed blessing, to preach my oldest sister's funeral. And one of the things I told them, and this was very, very true, she started out when they were married living in a log house. As they progressed, they had one mule. Mule's name was Jack. Had one old cow.
You named everything Jack.
Yeah, his was Jack. Had one cow, which was about a half Jersey and half brown Swiss, a good-sized cow. They had numerous dogs, because he loved to hunt. And they had the log house. Eventually they added 2 rooms onto it, and used asbestos shingle to cover that section. Of course, the log section remained log house. I have dug an outhouse hole for my sister and her husband for $4 back years ago, and I dug it pretty quick. I'm not going to tell you the whole story on that, but I dug it pretty quick. And I dug it so quick, my brother-in-law didn't feel like he wanted to pay me that much for digging that outhouse, and he was arguing with me, so I just went out there and filled it back up with motor blocks and rocks and parts and everything. And he had to dig his own outhouse hole. But one of the remarks I made when my sister passed away, they owned a beautiful brick home. They had a 75-acre farm paid for, and the mule had been replaced with 2 tractors. I said they went from an outhouse to a beach house, and they did. And now that, to me, is the American way that I am used to, where you start off with nothing, you save your money, you work hard, you make good decisions, you live the right kind of life, and then you pass away and give it all to your young'uns.
And then they fall out fighting over it.
Right. But my nephews and nieces in that family, one of them got a beautiful home at the beach, another lot. One of them has 25 acres and a beautiful home on it. One of the girls has her home and another house that goes with it, and about 25 acres on a real good highway, good access. Then my other sister, my other niece, she's got a big brick house, and she had about 40 acres there, and she sold some of it to one of my nephews. And so she's got like about maybe 15 acres left. And all that came from somebody that had one horse, one mule, one cow, and a log house.
But they didn't really do that. They didn't build it on their own.
No, they took no credit for
Wouldn't it be better to live like Julia and have all of your health care and your free contraception, free school, homeschool your illegitimate kid and all that? Wouldn't that be better to live that way?
Well, I'm gonna give you my perspective.
Okay.
Not for me. I know pride is what goeth before a fall, but I'm too cotton picking proud to live that way.
Well, you just ain't in the current wave, Bob. Everybody knows if it's free, it's much better. I mean, nobody has to pay for it if it's free.
Oh, it comes out of Obama's state.
It's kind of like whenever you build a bridge across the creek there at Beach Street. You only have to put up $300,000.
And they got one bridge already they built across that same
You only have
creek.
to put up $300,000. The other 1.4 million or 1.1 million, whatever it is free. It's just tax money from somebody else.
Free.
Yeah, free.
Okay. Well,
Free.
Aren't they going to be building that bridge to accommodate a larger load of walking travel?
Well, you know, they need some bigger road in case there's somebody crossing the road with a couch there going down on the walking trail that they bought up at Winders, and they need to carry it down there and sit on the creek and watch the
Tadpoles die.
watch the sewer processing plant.
Right, yeah, well,
And,
that's
they get
interesting.
run over if they ain't got a walking trail.
Yeah, it could happen, yeah.
You're just not into the modern way of living.
Well, no, I'm not really into the modern way because all of the money they spend on things around here, they ought to be on the bandwagon to get another road through La Polly.
Well, they don't need another road. They got a walking trail.
Well, I guess Obama's going to have everybody walking, so maybe that's the
Figures.
wave of the future. But,
Excuse me.
that's all right. Go ahead. What do you think
Hello.
about the situation?
Hey.
Are you?
In my opinion, there's
Well, I'm being a
better
star. If
ways
you come up here, peck on the door, and I'll let you in. See you.
spend the money and the resources. That bridge accommodates a 2-lane drive. That's a 2-lane road through there, and I
They're
don't.
gonna make a 4-lane bridge for a 2-lane road, though.
Well, there's no foreseeable future for that section of road ever being changed in our lifetime or maybe our children's lifetime, is for that road to even be increased or carry any more traffic than what it carries at this point in time. The bridge is sufficient. It'll carry any legal load. As a matter of fact, we've crossed it with several, with heavy loads. This seems to me like is just another means to spend money. And when you say free, there's no such thing as free.
Well, it's just
unless
other people's tax money. That makes it
Well,
free.
Yeah, that's the thing we can get deeply into, because there is no such. Somebody has got to pay the bill unless you count in the $75 billion that we're printing every month.
Well, that's
Now,
where the free
Yeah,
comes
but see,
in.
they're putting that in the stock market. That's where it stays so high.
that the stock market makes no sense whatsoever right now. We're getting off on another subject, but there's no reason whatsoever for the stock market to be making the gains that it's making right now with the unemployment rate where it's at.
I want to make sure you didn't talk more than 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You
That-
got plenty of time left. Just
that-
have at it.
Well, I get to philosophizing on this thing. Most things are real simple unless we're getting into technology stuff. But it's like this bridge here. The city, I'm sure, well, first of all, let me back up and say this. Rather than the city spending this kind of money, leave this money in the pockets of the citizens of this city and county. The citizens, if you would turn them loose and let them use their own innovation and let them make their own mistakes as long as they're paying for them, that's the only way I see that this country is ever going to go back to near where it was. I don't foresee that us ever going back to the
but
point.
But you got to move forward. Every politician you run into wants to move forward.
Every time I hear that, I got this, the little book that I carry my words in I can't use. Move forward. That's the dumbest statement I believe I ever heard for some reason.
Yeah, they seem to equate that with progress every time.
Well, progress. Was you getting me there? But anyhow, this is a way, just another way to spend money that really we don't have. Sooner or later, let me think on this.
The bill is going to come due.
The bill is going to come due. There's no doubt about it. It's
Let us
no business.
We're going to be on tomorrow night from 8 to 9.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Can I bring my fifth for the first?
You want to?
Well, what about the week after that?
I don't know.
Don't know about
But
that.
we done paid for this one.
Well, that was a part of a discussion that was held last night as to the overlapping contracts or agreements that's going to overlap the first of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any first-hand information.
I hope they close it down because we're going to have preachers in here and everything, singers. This is going to be the hub
Snakes.
of entertainment.
Have snakes.
Snake handlers. This is as long as they count them and they come in and count them and they leave and it's the same total.
Be sure they got the same number when they leave as they had when they come in.
We welcome snake handlers and feet washers and everything.
Well,
I mean, this year, broadcast television, cable television, that's over with anyway. It's now the internet, and we're just going to have to get to understand that them days is gone. This is moving forward.
Right.
This part totally fascinates me is the ability to communicate.
You know, up there at Channel 12, they just get them here locally. We're going all over the world.
Right.
Of course, the world don't seem to care.
The world don't seem to care.
But does the world know it yet?
We're going to have to let them know. We'll write them a letter.
Anyhow, fellas, there's a lot of things we could discuss. This bridge thing, I'm sure, is a done deal.
I agree with you.
It's a done deal. It's just another example of. Well, let me back up and say this. Does the people making these decisions, do they ever ask anyone's opinion out here?
Well, we're not able to offer an educated opinion because they
Everybody
know
south
so much
of the
more than us.
Mason-Dixon line is ignorant anyhow.
We're just fools.
You'd
Yeah.
be surprised.
All we do is pay the bill.
You'd be surprised how much you can learn by the time you get in the third grade.
Yeah, I know. You know, Mark Twain said when he was 18, he thought his old man was a fool, but when he was 21, he was amazed how much the old man had learned in this 3 years.
Ain't that right? But if we go back, spread this out over our country, and everybody's already said this, is there's no way we can continue to live as far above our means as what we're doing right now. It cannot go on forever.
Well, see, I mentioned a while ago, we'll go into this a little bit further if we have time, that I feel like the main purpose of government is for nothing other than to separate hard-working people's money or their wealth from them, take it away from them. That's all government is for nowadays, whether it be the sheriff's department, whether it be ambulances, or whether it be any branch of government. They're all set up to separate people from their money. city government is notorious for that. That's what happened in Detroit and everywhere else. And they finally got everybody's money and they found out they didn't have any. And you take, like here in La Follette, we have a Bojangles coming in, which I like Bojangles. But what people fail to realize that they're just going to be cutting the pot up one more time with another restaurant. They're not going to get any more tax revenue because every dollar spent at Bojangles is one that's not going to be spent at one of the other restaurants. So all they're doing is getting a larger and larger share of a decreasing amount of tax revenue. And I believe the government's main purpose is to separate people from their money. And
they've got that down to a science, an art, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they do.
The what you're saying really is kind of a simple truth that people don't ever stop to think about. It doesn't. Another place to spend the money is one thing. Now, it's the total amount of money that is coming in is the key to the thing. Like you're saying, all you're doing right there, instead of bringing more money in, you're just making another place, which I have no objection to it, but instead of one restaurant or something else making $1 or collecting $1 in sales, they're going to be collecting 50 cents, and the other place will be collecting.
Here's the bad part about it. These restaurants that are coming in are headquartered elsewhere.
Right.
And if there is any profit over and above labor and materials and everything, then that's going to go out of state, and it's certainly going out of county.
Our most brilliant and illustrious and very honorable mayor said that he tried to get Weisels in here for a year so that they could split the gas sales among another person. It ain't going to make nobody nothing. It's just going to take away from people that are here. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But I remember a time when a former mayor went out of state to solicit another concrete company to give competition to Dixie down here so that any profits they had could leave the state rather than stay local. Have you ever heard of that?
And
I've heard that.
On the way, did they not get arrested for poaching deer?
Something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
But the main purpose was to see if they could get another concrete company
Well,
in
it was the same bunch of
right.
concerned citizens.
Well, I tried to tell them at the concrete company if they would put flower boxes under their windows and plant little gardens throughout.
If they put them there half barrels up there and put them there
little
bonsai trees.
Right, that's what they needed to do.
Well, where business is done, the appearance of something, I know some things are more appealing to the eye, but if you run equipment, now I'm talking about on the level of where you're down on the, I don't know where you want to call it, the bottom end or whatever you're at, you cannot do it like government or someone else would do. If you've got an old piece of equipment, you've got to try to salvage all the parts out of it you can to keep your other equipment running. Now, if you were government supported or whatever, your equipment is taken out before it even gets worn out.
Right, yeah.
Because you're not having to pay for it and you're not basically having to make a profit. And that's the thing I don't understand about cities and whatever.
County.
Here in the city of La Follette, we had a dam back here between these two mountains that the city tore it down. And they said that the insurance company wouldn't insure the thing or something because they was afraid it would break and flood the city.
Our city fathers and all their infinite wisdom decided that these trees are a good expense.
This dam was well built. It was built to all engineering specs, tied into bedrock and whatever. The dam could not feasibly, no matter how much water you put behind it, you're not going to knock this dam out. But yet, they paid hard money to go back there and destroy the thing or break it down to where that it would hold no water. And these are the type of things that we've already paid for this stuff. It's in place and everything else. Whereas we could use a little imagination in a place like that. You got a lake back between those mountains. It'd be a beautiful place for a park or anything else you want to do. But anyhow,
No, they don't think I would. Just like one of the problems we ran into here with the previous city administration, they were going to tear down West La Follette School, one of the
That's what got our tails in
the best built
yeah.
units in the city. And I really feel Ronnie and I basically stopped them from doing that.
I really think Bob and I basically got in trouble over it too.
We got in big
Yeah.
trouble over that.
And, now you have an ongoing community center, which really, in all honesty, ought to be called Wild Bob and Ronnie Community Center.
They love that.
When you've got buildings that are sound buildings, structurally sound, and whatever else, I don't see the point of tearing them down just to build another one. When you come back to it, La Follette, it would have been junior high.
Yeah.
High school and turned to junior high, of course, was a sound building.
Yes,
it was a very sound building.
Their gymnasium up there was the most structurally sufficient building in this county.
It was sufficient to be considered a bomb shelter.
Yes,
I mean, it had the signias and everything else.
yeah.
Right.
Back
Had concrete bleachers. They went in there and put plastic stuff in that pulled out.
Right.
well,
You know, what you're getting around to is that the city does not, and county and the government does not make proper use of what they got.
I've got that there bonsai tree thing we can show in a few minutes if you want to.
bonsai trees. Yeah, that's
That was a
Anyhow.
good expenditure.
there's no end to it. We see stuff. You know, there was a meeting that I attended at the city council, and our former city administrator, the one that is now
Vice mayor. or
the
something.
vice mayor of the county, that I don't want to go into his history, but I sat there at a meeting one night, and the discussion or the subject was brought up about the railroad crossing, right at where the Gulf tanks are at,
Yeah.
or whatever. Well, he didn't have a representative from the railroad there, whatever. But anyhow, there was $250,000 involved there to put in cross arms, and I don't know, all sorts of things. And his argument was that the railroad had sent him a letter saying that they would no longer be responsible for any accidents that happened there, like the city would be responsible.
Yeah.
Which, if you stop to think about it, the city is not responsible for that railroad crossing.
Yeah.
That's railroad property, and actually, if a train hits a car there, chances are the car is at fault because there's lights. As long as the lights are flashing, their sign says railroad, and if you're a competent driver, you know what a train is and a railroad track. But
You know what I'm trying to do to a car, too.
well, and then I went on to ask, I said, when was there a licensed accident or an injury or a fatality? Well, there was a fatality there many, many, many years back. And I asked, well, how did this happen? And they said, it appears that the person in the car decided that they wanted to cross over. And I'm not talking about crossing the railroad track. They wanted to cross into the next life or whatever.
They committed hurry-carry.
That's right. They parked on the railroad track
Oh boy.
and got hit by a train.
Well, they'd have been parked between the arms then, wouldn't they?
Well, but here's the thing. Have you seen them arms?
I hadn't looked at them.
Well,
I know you can go around them.
No, you don't have to go around them. They're still not there.
Oh yeah, I know they ain't none up there.
Well, they was never put up. If they got done discussion the $250,000, and this was a means by which for the railroad to get some sort of a stimulus money to do this, the city was required to put up a certain portion, and the way they did their part was to block off a street.
Well, that'll work for me.
Okay. Then what the fire department, the gentleman,
Oh,
the
boy.
fire chief, he states then the amount of time that it would take that section of the city. Okay, if you put a train through there, do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right, there's only one other way in to that whole section of the west end of town, and you have to cross a bridge.
Yeah.
Now this is a new bridge.
Yeah.
Have you seen the weight limit now on it?
No, but it's got to be.
The weight limit now on it is 5 tons.
Okay.
You can't cross the bridge with a loaded fire truck.
No.
Them people just have to burn.
Well, you know, where is the thinking and
I know where the thinking's at. The thinking's where the money's going, not what they're going to buy with it.
Oh, I don't.
Okay, it's.
You know, it really amazes me, this existing county commissioners we have, as well as the existing city council. It makes me, you know, one thing I ask myself, where in the world is Scott Kitts when we need him?
Yeah, and Adrian Baird, may he rest in peace.
Right.
At least he'd argue whether he's on the right side or not.
Right.
I hear the argument or the statement made, why do we not have big industries, or why don't we have this or
come to
this?
a podunk place like this where they go waste money on every little. Well, never mind.
Well, I've said all along, and if you look at it realistically, we have roughly 100 miles of frontage on the busiest highway in the world. That's I-75. At 50 on one side and 50 on the other. That's 100 miles of frontage. And about the only thing we can get is a liquor establishment, a XXX rated establishment, a restaurant, or a Pilot Flying J truck stop. That's about all you can get. Now, it would be ideal. We've got everything that, what was that town up there, Jefferson City? Jefferson City had that drew about 2,000 employees. The only thing that we didn't have, we did not have a industrial zone suitable for the rail traffic and the road traffic, which we got plenty of places to put it, but they're afraid to do it, afraid it might, some tourist opportunity might come along.
If you look at this county, the way it lays and the access to it, the interstate, there's a fair, whatever amount of interstate, a large portion of it's inaccessible because, well, it runs the top of the mountain, or top of Pine Mountain, and off either side, it's locked in, except for the interchanges. And we can mark one interchange off, the one after you get, well, like Jellicoe. When you come down there, you don't have access to a lot of the property. And then your next interchange down, well, when you're going up the mountain, is the one going into Rarity. Well, that interchange is actually a half of an interchange, because on the north or the southbound lane, which would put you getting off to your right, there is nothing. Mm-hmm. It just drops off of a cliff.
Elk Valley.
Yeah, into Elk Valley. All right. If you go if you go into Rarity,
about the Rarity Mountain Exchange.
There's nothing.
What was that, $28 million?
18 million is about what it ran.
18's that all?
Yeah, about 18
that's a
million.
real deal.
We got a bargain now.
This was.
Man, ought to be able to get a house overlooking the French Broad River for something like that.
Well, this is another use of the taxpayers' money to build this interchange to nowhere. I mean, it's just that's all it is. It's
why don't they rezone that Rarity Mountain property and turn it into an industrial park?
That'd make Jellicoe happy.
Well, Jellicoe, I knew they were hooked. When
they had somebody, I caught somebody for snaking the copper out of the pipeline.
Yeah, I knew both of those boys. They're from here in La Valley.
Oh, yeah, we got industrial thieves around here.
I knew their face, you know, I didn't know their name.
The interstate, the access to it, it's like at Caravel. You're restricted. I mean, if you get off at Caravel, you got the state park right in the interchange. Everything is straight up or straight down. There's not very much land that could be easily developed as far as for
What about all that coming up Jacksboro Pike?
Jacksboro Pike. Are you talking about coming from Caravel up to Jacksboro?
To the Pollock.
Okay, from Caravel to Jacksboro is that section of road is a restricted. It's got restricted entrance to it. You can't enter or exit that road from any other road than existing road.
Oh, I'm sure if you can get a blooming exit built up at Rarity Mountain that you could get permission to enter that road elsewhere.
It's been tried. When that property was purchased through there, when the state bought that property, that was part of the understanding that there would be no access to it. When you sold your property to them, they paid a premium price to restrict any access to it. And from Caravel, from Cove Lake to Jacksboro, and you notice there's never been any road cut other than the roads that were existing. So that pretty much, of course, you've still got terrain. If on the right, about the time you leave Jacksboro, and I'm going to say that if you to where Cove Lake backs up there is probably under the 1028.
Probably on the flood zone.
See, it's below the lake level. Even though the lake's not in there.
I'm sure. Now, I love you to death, but this is the thing that everybody's got in this county with 100 miles of road frontage, with I don't know how many thousands of acres we have in Campbell County. There's no place in the world that we could build a convention center except over there next to Anderson County. And that's the same thing with if it were welcomed, I'm sure there would be some industry built somewhere. I go up I-75 and I look and see now, it'd be great. Put an entrance over here, put an access road. There are several places between here and exit 141 that they could go. And then there's right many of them after exit 141, even though you got a pretty steep mountain on the right and a pretty good drop off on the left. I'm sure that there are a lot of places, distribution places could be put for tractor trailers and things of that nature that would bring real money into this county and real job opportunities. Well, I would not, as a young man, move here so I could raise a bunch of kids to be soda jerks and sell T-shirts.
I understand what you're saying.
No, ain't nobody gonna buy you T-shirts.
Right.
I can't give you the figures, but I'm going to say that an extremely large percentage of that property that borders either Old 63 or I-75 is held by the TWRA.
Is what?
It's held by the TWRA.
Well, this is one thing you need to defund, and is TWRA. It needs to be put out of existence.
Look at the acreage that this took off, and if I'm not mistaken, I'd almost be willing to bet that there's no property taxes collected on this property.
Oh, I know. I understand
Probably
that.
in lieu of taxes, which is not much.
I don't really have any grand ideas as to what would be. I mean, there's so many things. Well, let me say like a local. For a local person to go into business, and I'm talking about any type of business that has to do with equipment, you name it or anything, to overcome the initial cost and the rules and the regulations and all this stuff, it's practically impossible.
Well, I understand that. That's the reason you have to seek large corporations to come in here for a distribution center or for manufacturing opportunities, and then the local people are going to have to get their part from picking up the crumbs that fall off the table,
Right.
and associated industries and things that go along with it. You're not going to come in here with, I'm sure that no one local person was big enough to bring on the Volkswagen company. But there's going to be a lot of small people make a lot of money off of the money that Volkswagen Corporation brings in.
I'd like to point out that Dixie Concrete at 5625656, Diggers Propane right in the middle of the road in Sawmill Holler, 5625444. Vital Care of Campbell County at 5629370.
Right.
And Napa Auto Parts.
That's with tomato juice poisoning. That's the number you call.
Napa Auto Parts at 5629406 have paid for this.
Right,
We appreciate it. Happy
Right.
New Year
Yeah, we
to
do.
you too.
And you've impressed me by how you can remember all those numbers. And
I remember BC bonding too, and all them others.
We keep them in reserve. They're my backup on my goat problem.
It would, if you could have a good discussion on these issues, just like what we're sitting here discussing now. I'm sure that there's some people out there who have ideas, and not only that, they have a first-hand knowledge of the real estate, the properties, and stuff that is available, and the lay of this land. You've got an initial major investment in getting the property suitable. The abandoned strip pits would probably be the places that you can make a level place with the least amount of expense.
What about up here to exit 141 on the right before you get up to exit 141? They got all that cleared off and graded off and everything in there with a proper promotion. I'm sure you could get something other than, and I'm glad that Campbell Manufacturing Corporation's up there and some others, but I'm sure we could get some additional manufacturing up there.
I've heard, now this is just, it comes to my memory, back, I'm going to say maybe a year ago or less, I heard something to the extent that TA, Truck Stops of America, had acquired that property to increase their...
Who is it?
Truck Stops of America.
Okay.
To increase, see, they're already located there. They've got a shop and whatever there.
Where
But my understanding is at the 141 on the southbound side, that they've acquired that real estate there to enlarge.
On which side?
On the southbound side.
Okay, no, I'm talking about on the northbound side, up there where you got Triple X coming back down that access road. You got an awful lot of property open in there.
Yeah, you have. But now let me back up and say something else by George.
Look out, George.
Yeah, look out, George. Back several years ago, I was in the market to buy some property there, about 350 acres. And
I'd be in the market to buy it too if I had any money.
Well, the gentleman who owned the property made me aware of something that I mean, he was a straightforward person, business person. He didn't want you to buy something that you didn't understand. But he made me aware of the fact that any of that property where those ponds were, the sediment ponds from mining and whatever else and so forth, that these properties were considered wetlands.
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
on top of the mountain?
Yeah, well, it's where they had been mined, strip pit, and then they turned it into wetland.
Ain't that a BIS?
Well, he was he informed me of it, and I hadn't thought about it. You know what I was thinking? You go in there and drain this and put this here and here and here, and he says you don't do that. If it's a wetland, it's a wetland, and I don't know how you get around a wetland. I heard of one outfit doing this by getting a variance from the I don't know whether it's wildlife or EPA or whatever, that if you can drain a wetland providing you build another one somewhere else.
That was a homemade wetland anyway.
Well, that's correct. It is, and I don't think how it become one matters. It's just the fact that it is a wetland. So a beaver could get you a whole lot of wetlands.
They're declaring every mud hole in the process, and probably happen tomorrow. Every mud hole in the world, or at least in the United States, is going to be a wetland because it eventually connects to a water aquifer that goes off to the ocean, so that makes it navigable.
Well,
I'd like to see somebody navigate it, but.
Well, as of right now, my understanding is, of what I've seen, any water that you can navigate is controlled.
Yeah, but they're going to say that because a mud hole drains through the dirt and eventually ends up in the ocean, it's part of it.
Right, I understand. But this is where I'm coming from as far as putting in a business, utilizing property, and stuff like that, is to just downright get permission to use it.
Well, I'm this way about it. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, if you don't run out of will before you...
You have no will here in this county to bring industry in. You can't even bring in an ash dump up here in the mountains under all the regulations of EPA and all the governments, which it's going to lower their property value. Well, Lord, they ain't going to give it $5.95 an acre all that land up there anyhow if they sell any amount of it at all. So, I don't see no way in the world it could make it worth less than $5.95 an acre.
$5.95 or $595?
What?
$5.95, $5 or $500?
$595 an acre. They gave $4.95 for that land up there at Rarity Mountain.
$495.
Yeah, an acre.
Okay.
And then they tried to get everything zoned around it so nobody else could do what they were doing, and which I'm glad, because we don't need anybody else doing what they're doing.
The fly ash, if we burn coal, which seems to me like we're going to, well, let me back up and say it this way. We're going to consume energy, and it's going to be produced in some manner. And right now there's only X many means by which to produce energy.
But we're going to have solar power. You're going to have it on your car pretty soon.
Yeah.
You just get out and drive off on the solar power.
Did you see the article in Knoxville paper last week about solar panel, and everybody's having to pay for that solar panel production?
No, I heard that might be right interesting.
Because they're buying it at retail prices from these people that produce
it.
Well,
I already knew that,
price.
but I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I heard about it.
And that's what the city, the school system's doing here. They're having other people's tax money to subsidize the solar power that's being produced on these schools.
That's correct. This would be a great subject to get someone in to discuss.
If we just find anybody around here that can cuss.
Yeah, that could talk about this. I'd like to see some of the paperwork and to verify the numbers and the means by which they're doing it. I'm talking about measuring, how they're measuring the kilowatts and what they are producing. Just because you read it in the paper don't mean that it's fact.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah. The city utility could most likely give you a lot of information on this if they would, because
it's fed into their grid.
That is correct. And I'm sure that they're the ones who are reading the meter and doing the paperwork on it.
Right.
And my understanding is that what kilowatts are produced by these solar panels, the TVA is reimbursing them at a higher rate than what
12 cents.
Okay, at what the city
Yeah.
or utilities are buying
Yeah.
Yeah.
energy for
Yeah.
or electricity
Yeah.
for.
Higher
So-
than they're charging for it, I think.
Right, and
Well, actually, the
it's
school
upside
system,
down.
the school system is given a credit higher
Okay.
than what the going rate is for electricity production.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
Well, the rest of the ratepayers are subsidizing construction
right.
and higher than wholesale price so that we can have solar panels on top of our roofs and make everybody rich and happy.
You take down North Carolina, I have a power pole on my farm. Never used. Cost me about $20 a month, something like that. I got a $63 and some odd cents refund check back this year. I always get $50, $60 back every year. I've never got anything back from LUB
Why you get money back?
because it's a what is it, a co-op,
Yeah.
and they redistribute
Okay.
all the profit back, you know. And of course, LUB is supposed to be non-profit.
Well, when we say non-profit, that just means that you
But
spend
you talking
whatever
about
you
not
take
being
in.
able to get to figures on something as complicated as the meter reading on the solar panels.
Mhm.
Think about the incubator program. They have gotten somewhere in the neighborhood. My memory really fails me, but I know they've got somewhere over 200 some thousand in federal money. Okay.
Mhm.
Which they've been in existence, what, 4 years, something like that?
Something like that.
Okay, 4 years. They spend an average of about, I think, over $100,000 a year, okay? And they say they have helped 7 businesses, and they will not even tell you the names of the ones that they've helped. They are so busy incubating that you know what they're doing now? They're having people to come down there and help them, and they're helping the people to get into Obamacare.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that'll incubate something.
Lordy.
Well, you take incubator program. We were talking about a while ago not making proper use of equipment and buildings that the government owns. Here they go down here, and this is nothing but corporate welfare. They rent a whole floor on what used to be First National Bank down there at Jacksboro, which is now, I don't even know the name of the bank.
Community trust.
Community Trust. They rent a whole floor for $2,000 or $3,000 a month.
Mhm.
Now, the county had plenty of buildings that they could have holed up in. Then the education department's got to have a new building, main building. Well, in North Carolina, and I'm not trying to put either state up over another one, I have a daughter that runs most of the computers for the University of North Carolina at Raleigh from her home.
Mhm.
There's a lady here in La Polly that works for a national company. She is a computer program expert. She does it right in her home, right up here on, I guess that's First Street, okay? Because I've helped her set everything up. And she does that from there. Now, our education department is supposed to be in the forefront of ideas and things like that. They had to have an old-timey type education building with a conference room. They couldn't put one department here and another department here with a computer, another compartment here and another.
Well, they had 2 or 3 buildings they
Yeah,
gave
they had
away.
all kind of buildings they could do that in, and there wasn't anything wrong with the one they had. But yet they had to go spend all that money, and they had to talk the county commissioners into paying for it before they sold the property that was supposed to pay for it, which didn't pay for it because it didn't bring enough money.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where if somebody, whether it's me or somebody, ought to be able to stand up, and I don't know whether
You can't stand up down yonder. You just get 5 minutes by
well, I don't
appointment
know
only.
whether the individual commissioners they ought to be able to stand up and say, no, just wait a minute, we ain't going to do that.
That don't happen.
We've got a situation where we've got people who make the rules, they don't abide by the rules, but
Well,
yet
we need more rules.
we need more rules. And it starts, it's not just at this level, it's all the way to the top. But if we come back here, we've got so many things here that have happened in the last little bit that we're so restricted. Let me go back and say this. If you were to bring in city commissioners, county commissioners, anyone in a position of authority, and ask them to start a business or get their suggestion as to what business.
Well, we go down to the incubator.
No, they won't suggest what business you're to go into. I think, I believe it was discussed that one of the key businesses that would have made money here would have been an escort business. Run an escort business and run it out of the job incubator. See, and that way you'd have an office and whatever and a telephone. And all you do everything by telephone, except for certain
everything
parts.
is set up.
Yeah, that's
all
what I'm talking
about.
The whatever, but anyhow, this job incubator thing, when it runs out of federal money, if you're not careful, it's going to be start financing county money.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what it's going to lead to.
That's what I said.
They'll be
from the
asking for
beginning.
local money.
What I said from the beginning. They can go back on their track records, them 7 businesses, and just get all the money they need. We got about 3 or 4 minutes, fellas.
What will the county or the country do whenever we run out of enough people? Now, the country, the United States has already run out of enough working people to foot the
their own
bills.
money, but we can't do that.
That's right. Okay, in the county and the city or whatever, just like the bridge, if you raise the property taxes on people enough, how hard can you squeeze people on taxes until they give up?
Well, there was a former
That's what I'm
city.
saying. They're getting a larger percentage of a decrease in base.
That's correct. They
There
are.
was a former county commissioner told me one time, and I liked the guy. He's a pretty good fella, but he was probably upset because we only owed about 80 or 90 million dollars, and we had the potential to borrow 500 or 600 million. He wanted to go full-fledged, borrow everything you can, and spend it and upgrade this county, and upgrading in debt ain't upgrading.
No.
Well, the other let's see, it's been about a month ago, this solar panel thing was presented to Knox County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They had more sense than we did, didn't they?
Well, it was done the same way as it was done here. It was said you must do it now.
Yeah.
And they was going to do it without discussion or whatever. They had a few days to discuss it. We didn't have 1 day.
They already started construction.
Well, it was already in place before it was even brought for discussion. But the county mayor there, and I like the guy, Burchett, he says it's not financially feasible.
You know the problem with Burchett? He was a co-sponsor of the Obama Energy Initiative that put building codes in this county.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. And I sent him an email.
He's responsible for it because he voted for it to come out of his committee.
Yeah, he was a co-sponsor, and I sent him an email, 2 emails, as a matter of fact. And of course, I wasn't in his district, but he ignored both of them.
Well, I wasn't aware that he did that.
Well, he did. He's one of them sellout politicians just like the rest of them. And if you're listening, Mayor Burchett, you're a sellout. You're not a libertarian. You're a dadgum hypocrite.
Well, we had a state representative that set us up to where that we did not get hit.
That's correct.
We
and
did
I
not
worked
get hit
all
with
day
these
the
things.
day they set that thing up on the telephone, getting it done.
That's right. Okay, I know we discussed it at that time, but our county commission could
Sat on their lazy hind ends and didn't do anything.
They didn't even bring it up for discussion.
No.
And you know, we've got an election coming up here sometime in the near future, haven't we?
Yeah, but it ain't gonna make no difference.
Well, I know that.
Bunch of hoodlums.
Well,
It's kind
people
of
of the
like
same caliber.
the election for the county commissioner is kind of like the school system. School system says, well, we don't have any parents to help, you know. If the parents, you know, were more involved, we could do a better job. And I asked them, I said, well, exactly who educated the parents? It was the same school system that's trying to educate the children now. So, you know, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, you know, it's which one's it falls, you know.
Well, we know which come first, but we got to go soon. You fellas want to wind her down, we got to get off of here.
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, we won't have more time paid for, do we?
No, we paid for all this, and they're going to close us out.
Yeah, we're going to have to go,
Well,
folks.
there is kind of a restriction on how much you can put on one
Right.
lump.
Okay.
Right, okay.
But we can do it again next week if you want
Right,
to.
yeah, we can do that, and also we can continue some of this discussion tomorrow night on Channel 12, that's WLAF, as well as here on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, we'll be on at least one more night on
8
Channel
o'clock,
12, and that may
you
be
know,
the end of a
they may-
glorious run.
They may announce the death sentence then, but we're going to be on one more night.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Mr. Henson.
Thank you.
Bob, Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year, everybody.
Right.
Our city fathers, in all their infinite wisdom, have decided that these trees are a good expenditure. They make our city look wonderful. As you can see, they are definitely top notch. I mean, they're right up there with the finest of bonsai trees. Well, we used to cut these down when they grew in the fence row, and they look a lot better than this. But these are the same people that think that they know what looks good, so who am I to argue? I'm sure they do. We got them all over the place. We got these half whiskey barrels, and we've also got these wonderful shrubs, as you can see. How you like that? Our city fathers, in all their infinite wisdom, have decided that these trees are a good expenditure. They make our city look wonderful. As you can see, they are definitely top notch. I mean, they're right up there with the finest of bonsai trees. Well, we used to cut these down when they grew in the fence row, and they look a lot better than this. But these are the same people that think that they know what looks good, so who am I to argue? I'm sure they do. We got them all over the place. We got these half whiskey barrels, and we've also got these wonderful shrubs, as you can see. How you like that? Our city fathers, in all their infinite wisdom, have decided that these trees are a good expenditure. They make our city look wonderful.